Great. In this session, we'll be talking about one of the most confusing and for beginners and something most used expressions called lambda expressions, and that's very useful, and it helps us to create what we call anonymous functions because we really don't need to define a function the way we do it for while creating a function, but basically helps us create a ad hoc function without having to properly define using the def keyword like we saw in the previous session. So function objects returned by running lambda expressions work exactly the same way as those created and assigned by defs. There is a key difference that makes lambda useful in specialized roles. Then that's because lambda's body is a single expression. It's not a block of statements, and it's not clogged with a lot of things. It maintains its name, and that's why it's called a lambda expression, because it has only a single expression. Now the lambda's body is similar to what we put in a def body's return statement, but we simply type the result as an expression instead of explicitly returning it. So you're not returning it, but you're actually typing it as an expression. I'll show you in an example. And also because it is limited to being an expression, a lambda is less general than a define of a function or a def that we call. So we can only squeeze design to limit program nesting, and now there is a special reason why we use lambda, as lambda is defined to handle or to code simple functions, and def is used to create larger tasks. So let's slowly sort of break this down, all of it, so we understand conceptually what this means, and so tomorrow if we have to explain it to someone else, you know what exactly to say. And let's go back to my screen and let's code some examples.
Okay, now let's start looking at breaking down a lambda expression, and let's start by deconstructing a function. Okay, so all right, I'm going to try to write a function that squares any number that I give it as input, or I pass it as a parameter. Okay, let's see how it's done. So I'm going to say define the word def keyword to create a function like we saw in the previous session, and square number. It just converts everything to a square number. It takes some argument, and then the result will be equal to whatever the value has been passed, and it squares the number, right? And then after that, it should print the result or return whatever the result is, the value of the result, correct? This is essentially our function. Very simple, isn't it? Now, if I pass this, a call upon this function, okay, and then I pass on a value 2, like I have one argument, and this should return 4. Perfect. This is doing exactly what we wanted to do. Now I'm going to continue the breakdown. Okay. So I will take the same function but not put the return statement. Let's see what this does. All right. So I'm just going to still copy this, and I paste this, and this is not returning anything, right? So because I need to call that function, correct? There is no print, and I need to result, and now okay, there is something print. It says result is not defined. So what are we doing here? So I've created a function, and I'm going to create something different if you'd like to, if you think that there is a problem. And then there is something, I have a square number. Okay, I have to execute them. Perfect. So now there isn't anything that is coming out if I'm printing. So if I do something like this, print, and there is nothing, it says none, there's no outcome at all, because the result right now is where the value is held. And we can actually do all of this in one line, although it would be really bad to do so, but it's still, let's say what this happens. So I'm going to create a function called make square, okay, and then it takes a argument as usual, then it returns a number multiplied squared to 2, correct? So now I say make square, and then I put 4, it returns a 16. There is a return word. So this is the form of a function that lambda expression intends to replicate. So let's look at a lambda expression. How do we write one? So I just take lambda and take number, and number multiplied by 2. So this says something to give you some sort of an error, right? So this is actually, we got a function back. That means we can assign this function to a label. So now I can take a new label. Let's say make a square, and then I take lambda number divided by multiplied or exponentially multiplied by 2. And after that, I just have to say make a square, same way we did, and this returns whatever value you put in. And there you have it, the breakdown of a function into lambda expression. And that's about lambda expression. You can try out some more examples. Try to write a lambda function that will give you an even number. So a hint for you is to try out how, when you take a number and divide it by 2, if the remainder is not equal to 0, or it's a odd number and the remainder is equal to 0, is a even number. So in this exercise, try to create a lambda function, give it whatever name you like that makes sense to you, and it should take a value and tell you whether the number, a given number, is a even number by true or false. Okay, you try that. I'll pause a bit and then I'll show you how it's done. Okay, continuing lambda expressions. Now I gave you an exercise to print whether a given number is even in terms of true or false, and I hope you were able to write that lambda function. If not, let me show you here in my Jupyter notebook, and let's try to decipher this. So I'm going to say even, check even number. I'm just going to check even. It's pretty easier that way, and I'll use the lambda word, and then I create a lambda expression that verifies whether that number is divided by 2, returns a value of 0 or not. So I do check even, and this returns a true. I do check even, and it returns a false. So very well. So that's how you do it. And we can also do a lambda with strings. So I'm going to create another lambda which grabs the first character of a string. And you can, let's say you're writing a program, and in that you have scraped a website which has a lot of text, let's say Wikipedia, you need some articles. In that you want to grab the first letter of all that is there in a paragraph. I don't know, just want to do it for some reason. I'm trying to find a use case, but it's hard. But let's say you have some words you want to find, you can also do so this way. Then I call it like this. So I'm calling it that I have some text. Let's say I can even call it text and then text, but I'd rather call it something smaller so we can remember it. And there is a string of characters, and I want this to grab. So I haven't even written what it is, so I'm going to say first, and I will say something like this, and it grabs the first letter. So it's that simple. Imagine if you had to write a function for this, and so much of waste of lines and time you would have, and also memory, to be precise. So it's very simple, and you can do so by reversing a string also. Reverse a string, I create something, and then I will type the word lambda, and I can call this something else if this time, or let's call it the same. And then how do you reverse a string? If you remember, it is colon colon -1, and then I take this and I pass on some value, and let's put some really long name. I'm just trying to think of a, okay, yeah, let's put some country name. I've got no references, nothing to do with this country. I just because it's got a lot of characters, so I just put one. I'm sure there are other examples. I'm just taking something that came to my mind, and it reverses the country name that way. So it's simple, just like a normal function. This works. Now there's something else also it can do. It can also accept more than one function into a lambda expression as long as we maintain a single expression. Let's try to do something like that. So till now we've been dealing with one um, element, right? There's x, there's only t. What if there was x and y? That's what I'm talking about. And I'm going to say add, adding, this is a adder. I'm writing a function that adds two numbers, similar to what we did in the previous exercise. And this takes, again, to add a number, I need two numbers. I need another number, right? And then I will perform the add operation. So x and y will be my numbers, and I will do a x plus y, and then I do pass my values, and this simply returns 2 plus 3. So great. I hope you had a good understanding of lambda expressions. They really are useful when you use it with map, filter, or reduce. We'll be covering this in this same lecture, and each of those functions we're covering it separately, so you can explore them. And I also highly recommend reading more about lambda functions. There are some really very interesting examples out there, and I hope you enjoy spending the next hour. I'd really highly recommend you spend the next hour writing functions and another hour working only on lambda. That will sort of make you perfect. So if you're just watching this video and moving on to the next, I think it only makes you what everyone else does. But when you take your time and pause and practice, you're a few steps ahead of everyone else. And that's how you cover more ground and you make more progress. Although you're watching the video, watching video is slow. Trust me, I've watched a lot of videos, self-trained myself on a lot of languages. It's very important that you go steady and you can go the distance. And I hope you are coding along with me. And thanks for watching. See you in the next class.